So in this lesson, I want to talk about impersonal passive verb forms in Latin. When we talk about impersonal passives, we have to think, first of all, about the difference between transitive and intransitive verbs. Okay, on this slide, we have two sentences with intransitive verbs. Marcus in agro currit and Fortuna fauit fortibus. The distinguishing characteristic of a transitive verb is the transitive verb is a verb that wants to have an accusative direct object in order to complete its meaning. Okay? You'll notice that there's no accusative direct object in either of these sentences. Marcus in agro currit, Marcus is running in the field. Okay, there's a prepositional phrase in agro. Okay, I could have even said celeriter, swiftly. I could have had an adverb. Okay, but there's no direct object accusative. Similarly, Fortuna fauit fortibus, fortune favors the brave. The word fortibus is dative. Okay, because the verb faveo favere is an intransitive verb that takes the dative. Okay, now in English the verb favors is transitive. The word brave in English is the direct object, but in Latin we have to say that the verb faveo favere is intransitive. It does not take a direct object. So let's think about how we normally think of the creation of passive verb forms. So the top sentence is an active voice sentence with a direct object. Aemilia aquam bibit. Aemilia drinks water. Aemilia is the nominative subject. Bibit is a transitive verb, and it has an accusative direct object. Here it is aquam. Typically, when we make a passive verb form, we think about what the direct object of the verb, of the active verb form is, and we make that into the subject. So the accusative aquam of the active will become the nominative subject of the passive, aqua. Then we switch the verb form to make it passive and to agree in number and person and number with the nominative subject. So here aqua is the subject, so bibitur is third singular. And then in order to express the agent, if it's a human being, we use a or ab with the ablative, and if the agent is something that's not a human being or a god, we use the ablative means or instrument without any preposition at all. So a sentence like in agro curritur seems to be almost impossible to make from an English speaker's perspective, right? The verb currere cannot have a direct object accusative, so how can you possibly make a passive verb form? Well, there it is in agro curritur. One finds verb forms like this pretty regularly in Latin. Well, what does this mean? What's the Romans trying to communicate? Well, running is happening in the field. One person or more is running in the field. Potentially it's not crucial to know who's running at all. What's crucial is that running is taking place in the field. Okay? Notice that that is a third singular passive form. Well, one thing that's very conspicuously absent is, where's the subject? There isn't one. There's never an expressed nominative subject of an impersonal passive verb form. Let's think about a special category of intransitive verbs. Verbs that take the dative. These are going to be verbs like faveo favere, to favor, persuadeo persuadere, to persuade, noceo nocere, to harm, occuro occurrere, to meet. Okay, so let's look at the active voice version. Fortuna fauit fortibus. Again, fortibus is dative. Okay, fortune favors the brave. So you might be expecting, again, we shouldn't be able to make a passive verb form of faveo because it's intransitive. But au contraire, there we have fauetur fortibus. Okay, favoring of the brave is taking place. Okay, now fortibus is still dative. We might have thought, well, maybe we'll take the dative of fauet, we'll make that into the nominative subject. But no. If a verb takes a dative, it always takes the dative, both in the active and in the passive. So fauetur fortibus again means favoring of the brave is taking place. Now, it's a legitimate English translation to say the brave are favored. That's okay. But we have to realize in our, at least know down deep inside, that fortibus in Latin is dative. Let's talk about agents of impersonal passives. We might think, well, what's the point of making impersonal passive with an agent? Why don't we just leave it in the active? It's not always clear. But we do see sentences like the first one, in agro curritur a pueris. You can say by whom the running is being done, is committed. So that sentence means the act of running is being committed by children in the field. Okay? So we can express the agent of an impersonal passive. Okay, the next sentence, tali ne ab amicis quidam persuadetur. Such a person is persuaded not even by friends. Literally, persuasion to such a person is not taking place, is not being committed even by friends. Okay? Tali, again, being the dative, because the verb persuadeo always takes a dative. Now, something to keep in mind, an extension of what we mentioned before about these verb forms, they're always third singular. Now, these intransitive verbs, and intransitive verbs in general, when we talk about their passive participles and their gerundives, normally we think of these as first-second declension adjectives. In other words, they're us-a adjectives. But this category of verbs have passive participles and gerundives that are only Okay? They're only going to be in the neuter singular. So, postquam nobis parsum est, gratias retulimus. After we were spared, we expressed thanks. Literally, after a sparing took place to us, we expressed thanks. Okay, parsum is the perfect indicative passive of parco. Okay, but we need to have a um ending. Here we have the um ending. Okay, because only the neuter singular ending exists for these verbs. Finally, in ocentibus non est nocendum. Here we have a passive periphrastic using a gerundive, and you'll notice that the ending of nocendum is a neuter singular. We can translate that as the innocent must not be harmed. Okay? And despite the fact that we might have 1,000 innocent people, the ending of our gerundive in this passive periphrastic must be the neuter singular um. Here's a quick review of some of the highlights of this. Again, impersonal passives are created from intransitive verbs, both verbs like curere that don't take a dative, and verbs like nokeo, nokere that do. Forms are always in the third person singular. Okay? No matter who's being spared or persuaded, the verb form always must be third singular. There's never a subject of these verbs. There's no nominative expressed ever. And finally, only neuter singular perfect passive participles and gerundives exist. Instead of us-a, it's just Thanks for watching.